Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. You know what? This is going to be a great show. Let's get started right now, and let's open up the charts right here. And let's take a look at the silver price first. What we're looking at is 1524 bid, 1534 ask. Silver is staying down the low side. As soon as, I'll tell you, they get scared. First thing they do is run to silver. They've shown that in the last few days. They get a little bit scared, a little bit worried, and then they run to silver. But the first thing they do is, as soon as things start to calm down a little bit, then they start selling it off again. This is only the way it is right now. When the trouble really starts to pile in, I mean real big trouble, you're going to see silver shoot to the moon. So's gold will shoot to the moon. Let's take a look at gold. 1408. It still hasn't went below $14 though. You know, they're still a little bit tentative. They're still worried. You know, they're not selling off like they used to. Not driving it down into $13 and 1300s, I should say, anymore. Or remember when it was 1150? That was the time to buy. You know, I think it was 1050. Was it 1050 or 1150? Anyway, that was the time to be buying, you know, back when silver was back below, it was like $13, you know. Anyway, should have been accumulating, but still a good time to accumulate. You can still accumulate. It's not that high yet, you know. Let's take a look at cryptocurrencies. First, we'll take a look at cryptocurrency market capitalizations. Let's pull the chart up. We're looking at 369.8 billion. It's made a major step up in the last 24 hours in price. Bitcoin dominance has moved up too. I think during this whole thing, we're going to see the Bitcoin dominance continue to climb. Bitcoin is the coin. It is the coin. And as we see the Bitcoin dominance fall, as we see the Bitcoin price climb higher and higher, what we're going to see is the people that last time this happened, and Bitcoin went to 20,000, the people out there were actually still spending them for things, you know, but that's because it's making a change. This whole thing's making a change in the market from a speculative investment into something more. Let's take a look now at Bitcoin itself. Look at this shot moonwards, heavenwards. This morning we're looking at 12,809 per Bitcoin. Let me refresh the page. 12,815. So the movement is upwards. Now let's take a look at the Dow. Let me see if she's open yet. Yes, it's open. It's open for a few minutes now. It's up 76 points on the day so far. The Dow's up. They're anticipating rate cuts. I don't think that they're going to get the rate cuts as fast as they expect. You know, I think that they're going to get a 25 basis point rate cut, I think is what they're going to get. But the Fed really wants to raise rates. That's what they want to do. Let's take a look at the oil price now. And we see the oil price rising. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm a real skeptic. And I don't trust what people tell me. You know, I want to know the truth. You know, and there's so much corruption in this world. I just have some sort of a feeling right now that this whole thing that's going on right now is really all about the oil price. I think we might be being bamboozled, you know, just to get the oil price up. Everything about getting the oil price up. OPEC, you know, work together. The United States is still allied with Saudi Arabia and OPEC. And OPEC, they all work together, and they want to see that oil price go up. They don't want to see it go down. It was getting ready to go down because America was dumping so much oil as a major oil producer in. They were creating a glut. And the oil price, I think, was getting ready before this whole Iran thing. The oil price was getting ready, I think, to roll over. Well, it hasn't rolled over. It's went up. I don't know. I suspect, and until I'm proven wrong, until it's actually proven that what I suspect is wrong, then I kind of think, could we be being bamboozled? I don't never take anything for granted, in this world. U.S. Treasuries today. U.S. Treasuries. Well, take a look for yourself. And what we see rising yields today, but not significantly. We've been seeing this over and over again. The yields will rise for a day, and then the next day or the next 2 days, the yields will fall again. The Treasuries are like, honestly, on the charts, they're making a sawtooth pattern, But ultimately, the lower end of the yield has been falling. Today, I noticed sort of a little bit of a stabilization, but it's a little bit too premature to say that it's going to stabilize just yet, that the Treasury yields will stabilize just yet. It's a little bit premature, but I notice a little bit of slowdown of movement in this yield curve inversion. Just recently. Treasuries have been knocked down so low that they could whipsaw. Markets tend to do that. If you put too much pressure on a market in any one direction, like take cryptocurrencies. Not yet. Cryptocurrencies is not in a bubble yet. But when it gets in a real bubble and it goes into a massive hyperbolic bubble, markets will tend to whipsaw back. This is markets trying to find fair market value. And this is the way with the Dow right now. The Dow is in a hyperbubble. It's in a hyperbubble right now. Well, let's take a look. Bitcoin's not in a hyperbubble yet. Bitcoin's going into a hyperbubble rather rapidly. It's going into a huge bubble. Let's take a look at the U.S. dollar index. And we see the U.S. dollar is steadily declining. Now, this is declining about the biggest part of the basket of currencies that make up the dollar are the euro. So the dollar is declining against the euro, basically. Can you imagine that with the problems they got? I'm going to get into some of the problems. Huge, enormous problems. Let's take a look here at this. Now, you know who this guy is? Boris Johnson. Now, I'm going to ask you a simple question, guys. Ever once did Theresa May warn the EU? Her approach to the EU was to do anything that they told her to do and to never talk back. ever talk back. Do everything that the EU wanted her to do. She was like, now this guy is not even, he's not even elected in as prime minister yet. And he's warning the EU. Boris Johnson warns the EU against tariffs if Brexit comes with no deal. You know what? Totally different animal than Theresa May. I don't mean it as a term animal, but I mean totally different type of person than Theresa May. It's just absolutely different than Theresa May. Now, this guy could very well bring a no-deal Brexit when he gets in. In fact, he's promised to do so. And by gosh, it sure does look like he's going to get elected as prime minister. Now, it's going to be on Halloween, in October. And he could very well bring the no-deal Brexit, which could topple the entire European Union. It's already ready to go, In fact, the whole world's economy is ready to go. There's so many problems in so many different places within the structure of the world's economy right now that they're just holding it together. You ever seen a guy going down the highway, in an old beat-up car? I mean, really beat up, and he's holding it together actually with pieces of old tin cans or whatever. I've seen that kind of car before. In fact, there was one time when my dad bought an old green car, You know, this was years and years ago, and the thing was all rusted to pieces, but it had a good engine and drivetrain with it. But the engine had a leaky rear oil main seal in the engine, you know, and it's pouring oil out. Quite literally, if he'd drive 30 miles, he had to put a quart of oil in, but he never did bother with the rear main seal. He just continued to drive the car, and the car was rusting to pieces, and quite literally he was taking stuff like pieces of tin, you know, not tin cans, but pieces of sheet tin, and he was riveting them in the holes and stuff on the car to hold the car together. That's our economy. You know, that car was so bad, if it went over a really bad pothole or bump, I think it would have cracked in half. But he was driving it, you know. That's our economy right now. We go over one pothole, and our economy's going to crack in half. Now, this could be a big pothole coming up. I mean, what's the chances of it happening? Well, you've got Boris Johnson as the new prime minister. I say strong chance of that happening, that he's going to be the new prime minister. That's the first part. The second part is he's already pledged to leave the European Union in October, you know. So the chances of this actually happening, even though it hasn't happened yet, all the dominoes are in place, guys. All the dominoes are in place. And I'm going to tell you, a hard Brexit now, with the way the economy is, there's a number of factors that could bring it down. I mean, because it's so unstable. But they're just holding it together and praying for time. Now, Fed's Powell has reiterated the case for rate cuts amid increased economic risks. They know. They're scared. They're really scared. They know what's coming. They're really, really, really scared. And this is why rate cuts right now. The Fed doesn't want to cut rates. Are you kidding? They want to raise rates. They want to jack them up. And they want to continue with their quantitative tightening program. This is what they want to do. They know something huge this way comes, and what's coming is a global recession, and it's going to be a bad one, worse than 2008. They're behind the curve. You tell me one time in the history of the Fed that they've ever really got it right, except for maybe one time, I can think of one time, back during Volcker, when they actually raised interest rates up to 20% to fight inflation. That was one time they did something right, you know, but most of the time they always get it wrong, and they're wrong this time. They're way behind the curve. They should have already been cutting rates, and they should have already had them down below zero already. They should have done everything that they could do. They should already be in quantitative easing. The president is absolutely right. They're way behind the curve. They're going to wait until this market tips over, you know. Then they're going to have to rush in with much more than just a few rate hike cuts and a little bit of quantitative easing. That ain't going to cover it. You know, they're going to have to go into what I call the great print. A massive print of money. Huge amounts of money that they're going to have to create, which is going to send us into a hyperinflation. Last time, in 2008, they didn't send us into a hyperinflation because this problem hadn't manifested itself to the point where it is now. Now we're in a totally different situation. Pre-markets Fed, okay. That was the last article. I'll turn the charts off. Listen, thank you guys for listening to this show. Give me a thumbs up. And I think the whole thing is just getting ready to tumble. And I think if it doesn't tumble before the Brexit comes around again, that the Brexit will push everything off the edge. But, I mean, it's not like the Brexit is going to push everything. That was a dump truck. They're still working on my road. Listen, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.